Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with the first death of Wolverine. Last week, the Logan that fell in battle was revealed to be a Skrull spy, and when his shape-shifting brethren targeted Lorna Dane, the X-Men launched a surprise attack, only to get a surprise for themselves, revealing that the Horseman of Death was actually Wolverine. But they only noticed this when his mask came off, not when he started speaking exactly like Logan. Jeez, if that got past the X-Men, maybe that Skrull dude didn't really need to work that hard to fool him.
The cover makes note of the character's 25th year, and how he's still the best at what he does, which seems to be snarling at the reader with his foiled claws already snicked. We begin weeks earlier, as the X-Men have just returned from the past to the present-ish. Again, they came back a little earlier than they'd left and figured they can prevent some bad stuff from happening, like the UN handing Genosha over to Magneto. But they're rendered unconscious by a Skrull ship, and one of the boarding party takes Wolverine's place, which I guess in this case has to be permanent, and he's thoroughly knocked out so he can wake up with the other mutants. A 2-page spread summarizes how seamlessly the fake passed himself off as Logan, to both his friends and enemies, all the while subtly discrediting Xavier until the X-Men were torn apart, before his demise at the hands of the real, but brainwashed Wolvie. The X-Men are gathered together, still reeling from these events. They couldn't have planned for a big switcheroo that resulted in one of their own becoming a new Horseman. The most they can do is approximate just when their friend was taken, but they're still puzzled at how he became Death.
Obviously, Logan sent out his resume, got an interview, passed it, and went through orientation. Given that he's now a drone with murderous tendencies, I can say from experience his new job is most likely in retail.
A splash page features him in his new work clothes, narration giving a fatal spin on the classic line often associated with him. He's the best there is at what he does, and what he does is kill.
Yes, he's the best that failed to kill a group of children and most of the mutants in his way. Truly none can surpass him. Wait, are we sure Apocalypse remade him and not James Tynion IV?
He's summoned by his master, whom for now I shall call Zippy McFez, who tells him to look upon the image of his next victim. Yet in the panel it looks like Death is too embarrassed and just turns away. The Hulk is considered a blemish to their greater cause, so must be destroyed. And Death takes off, sword already out for a dramatic exit, I suppose. We jump back to the recent past, where Wolvie is waking up just as Skrulls are leaving him with his soon-to-be new boss, whom he recognizes by sense alone. Logan's all ready to fight, but Zippy is more concerned with his destiny, the moment which the Knucklehead's life of suffering has culminated to, and the greatest challenge to determine his future.
It's not a BuzzFeed quiz, is it?
Look, it's really important to know which character from the Big Bang Theory you are.
You really are the ultimate evil.
While riding a armored robot raptor thing, Death is following a path of destruction left by this jolly green fellow here, having a casual walk through the forest. Or casual for him, rather. Narration mentions that Bruce Banner had some control over his monstrous form until recently, leaving Hulk going on primal instinct, with just enough wherewithal to know he's being followed. Death-Vorine attacks just as we're sent back to the past, where his thoughts constantly go back to the state of the X-Men. Skrulls come to collect him for his challenge, sending him to an arena where Zippy welcomes him. Your destiny awaits.
Well, I wish it would get on the stick, bub. There's a nature program I'm hoping to catch on the Learning Channel. They recorded me hunting and feeding on a gazelle, and I want to know if they got my good side.
Sabretooth attacks, whom narration notes has powers and ferocity much like Wolverine's, but now has adamantium-laced bones. After Vic draws first blood, Logan figures that one wrong move and he's done for, even though his own healing factor is accelerated without that metal. His inner monologue suggests that because Creed has adamantium, that makes it easier for him to kill Logan, but if you ask me, that seems pretty contradictory. In the present, Hulk wants to know why he's being attacked, and Death responds that he doesn't fit into the Master's new order as he stabs the brute in the back. But No one orders Hulk.
Unless it Hulk's intern ordering him half-calf mochaccino with cinnamon and whipped cream. You think Hulk mad now? You not see Hulk before his coffee and biscotti.
Hulk had his chance as the Horseman of War, but muffed it, which is a weird bit of dialogue coming from Wolverine, brainwashed or not. And since the world to come has no place for the weak, Death takes his sword from its fleshy green sheath and continues his assassination attempt. But Hulk is smart enough to use his enemy's blade to pull him in closer, making his classic declaration of being the strongest one there is. We return to Wolvie's fight with Creed, which the latter says is more about than who wins the day, but who rides as Apocalypse's new Horseman.
Looks like this match just went into sudden death.
The title is more suited to Sabretooth, but that's pretty much what makes Wolverine snap, as he delivers a defiant and decisive strike, his claws ripping right into his enemy's midsection. Adamantium bones don't do much to protect your guts. While he'd previously stopped short of punching Victor's ticket, Logan now gouges him over and over. For Creed, becoming Death would be like a non-stop party, but instead of awesome snacks, it's blood. Instead of the best DJ, it's blood. And instead of drunk guys with lampshades on their heads, it's blood. But the Knucklehead is confident that he'll have a better chance of fighting any kind of programming involved, and eventually win, reasoning that better men than Fezhead have tried and failed.
How do you mean better, exactly? Because we're talking about a nigh-immortal tyrant that's been trying to conquer and manipulate the planet for centuries. Technologically better? I sincerely doubt that. Morally better? Possibly, but that would mean going into some serious relativity.
Aw, look, Hulk's forgiven Death and is giving him a great big loving bear hug, and oh no, that's my mistake. No, he's trying to crush him to death horribly. It won't be a pretty sight. But after a headbutt, the giant is phased enough to release his foe and recognizes Fancy Man as his old sparring partner, Little Man. Recalling all their past encounters, Hulk grabs a tree and slams it down with such force that it results in a mushroom cloud.
And that is just plain awesome. Don't get me wrong, I dig me some Wolverine, but he's gotten so oversaturated over the years, it is kind of nice to see someone overpower him like that.
Sabretooth is strung up by the ceiling, parallel to Wolverine, both of them largely naked just to make this all extra awkward, I'm sure, while Zippy begins the long and torturous process of removing the adamantium from Victor's bones and implanting it within Logan. On the very next page, Death is lunging from what looks like the ground, newly remetaled claws unsheathed. It kind of implies that he was driven into the dirt, though you'd think the tree would have flattened his flesh and organs, and on the next page it looks like he's lying in a crater, so I'm not sure what to think of this. After being punctured by those claws, Hulk goes into a rage and decides to smash Little Man until he stops doing that. He slams him into a tree, but Death manages to get in a few good cuts, disorienting Hulk long enough to get in a final fatal attack. Strangely enough, the narration boxes and font change, fitting more Logan's inner monologue around this time in his title, but it continues as third-person narration as before. It describes how Logan's more heroic nature asserts itself, making the Horseman hesitate just long enough for Hulk to throw him down. He just wants to be left alone and is tired of fighting Little Man, and seems satisfied enough that he's shown him what for. After he leaves, Death is taken by a beam of light.
First he gets wrecked by the Hulk, and now he's going to get probed by aliens. This is just not Death's day.
No, he's just been returned to Apocalypse, who's shed his human disguise and decided that his new minion could fight the Green Behemoth for eternity before an actual victor ever arose. In any case, Hulk will likely die in the impending inferno that will overtake the world and usher in a new era.
My era. The Age of Apocalypse.
And I'm totally the first one to think of that. Me and no one else. This is absolutely the first time anyone's ever used that title. So concludes Wolverine number 145, and as a standalone issue, it's pretty good. The narration nicely enhancing the atmosphere, and the explanation of Logan's transformation was very well done, including how he gets his adamantium back. But given the whole of the first death of the character, I gotta say it's not all quite as solid.
It's been a while since I read the comics that led up to this event, so I can't say for sure if this was planned for a while or not, but there are times where it feels like it was a rush job for an admittedly interesting idea that came up at the last minute. Given how hectic comics can be, it's entirely possible that someone had an idea the editors didn't like, so they threw together this one so it would clear things up and lead to a bigger cross-title story. Astonishing felt shakily paced, congested, and rushing in moments that could have been given a bit more time or weight, but the subsequent comics actually got better as they went along. Though the unnecessary inconsistency of Death's manner of speaking kind of ruined their big surprise. The littlest details can have the biggest impact on a story, and this is one of those examples where it does not turn in the story's favor.
Even in this one issue, he's inconsistent with his speech pattern, so I'm not entirely sure what to think, other than they should have just kept him speaking all prim and proper like while he was Death, before we found out it was Wolverine, and afterwards. It would have made the big reveal had even a little bit more impact.
Though I will grant there were some clever allusions, like Death dragging down fake Wolverine and emerging from the ground saying that he was no more, subtly talking about himself perhaps and not the Skrull. But the greatest killer, enhanced by Apocalypse, can't take down some kids or any of the X-Men that aren't on the list of the 12. Even setting aside the fact that a lot of his skills came from his gear, like a cloaking device and whatever the heck that sword was supposed to be, it seems like maybe becoming Death kinda hindered Logan's killing skills. And yet he still manages to be better at it than this stupid imitation.
Overall, I would say the story is okay. It gets better in the second half, but it still falters because they dropped the ball in some pretty key places. And on top of other stuff I've mentioned, maybe if they had waited a couple of months before revealing who Death was, it may have been more of a shock for the reader. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.